Let's find out what's in the feed. What's in the feed this week? Let's find out what's in the feed. Hello, everybody, and welcome to What's in the Feed for this week. This week's going to be a special show. As advertised, I have my good friend A-Lib, the Angry Long Island Vet, on, and we're going to do a long-form interview. So this is going to be a little bit different than the normal format, which we've been fine-tuning over the last 18 episodes. This one I felt like had to be broadcasted full length. I was going to break it down into a couple of different segments over the next couple of weeks, but because the content was so topical, I had to make sure that it all came out. We did discuss some current politics that's going on in New York with Mamdani and a couple of the wacky laws that he's trying to institute. We did also touch on the California elections. And at that time, it was election day and Spencer Pratt was up big time. We talked about the nuances of his campaign and how we were both impressed with the fact that it was one of the more impressive campaigns than we've ever seen. He did things differently and his message was resoundingly effective, especially since he was going for mayor so locally. We all know what had happened to the Palisades and how he lost his house and all that, but he made it incredibly personal and he picked up a lot of support. Now, the sad part is at this moment, as I am recording this late Sunday, early Monday, it is official that Nithya Raman has somehow surged ahead of him. We all know that there's a steal going on. Okay. I know that this may be censored at some point. I haven't had a problem with any of the platforms that I've been on, but there seems to have been a concerted effort by many of the media platforms to try to cover up the math as it involves these late night ballot drops. Now, you know that I've been a champion for the SAVE Act, and I believe that all of this was premeditated on a bigger level. Why John Thune and the Senate did not pass the SAVE Act before a lot of these races started, and these are the primaries, and it doesn't look like we are going to have this passed by the midterms. And I think that this was a concerted effort for the will of the people not to be heard. Now, where the motivation comes from or who is behind it, I don't know, but there's no reason for any of these things, any of these races to have been in question. This goes back to the whole conspiracy theory about the Massey race being rigged. We knew California was going to try this, but at this point, California is just doing this right in front of our face. They're not even hiding it. And because the infrastructure there is built for this, I don't know if federally there's anything that we can do to stop it. The only positive point is that ballots will continue to be counted until July 6th, the longest time frame of any state, actually anywhere in the world, to count ballots. It's designed for fraud. Anyways, I thought I would address that because it does pop up and we're really excited about it on this episode. But we'll touch on a couple of other things too. We get esoteric when we start talking about religion and we start talking about UFOs and Project Bluebeam and all kinds of other interesting stuff. So I could tell you this one is going to be interesting. I like the fact that we had a long form interview, and I really do enjoy talking to A-Lib. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode, this special episode this week. We'll be back to the normal format next week, and stay tuned in at the end of the interview for all of the housekeeping on what's in the feed. All right, here we go. Angry Long Island Vet. Welcome back, A-Lib, aka the Angry Long Island Vet. It's good to see you again, my friend.
Good to see you as well.
How have things been?
Pretty good. Just working, dealing with the kids, same old, and listening to the crazy shit going on in the world today.
Right. I know the world is crazy. I wanted to start off by what you know about this Mamdani thing. I saw a post that popped up where Mamdani is, and you're a little bit closer to it than I am, but I'm always curious. New York is making news now. I don't know how you guys voted in a socialist communist. And I know that you're out there in Long Island, so you're adjacent. But what's been going on with Mondami? Do you know anything about
Certainly. So
this?
yeah. So well, if you recall, right in the beginning of when he got sworn in, he started trying to doing the COPA law. Basically, if you had a three-story dwelling, you had to sell to NGOs. And now he's actually trying to go further on that when it comes to if your business is not up to standard, if your place is not up to standard, he's looking to seize the property again. But hey, no kings.
Now, I was understanding here, and I paid a little bit of attention before Mondami got in. Apparently, it was already a problem for people that owned these buildings because they required them to be up to a certain standard for renters or whatever. They just made it unreasonable for them to rent the properties out. So I think before Mondami, and this is kind of where he got his foot in the door, is that some of these livable, and I say that in quotes, buildings were basically vacant because it wasn't worth actually putting people in them. I mean, is that right? And this is kind of where he gets a little bit of power here, going, okay, well, if you guys aren't going to be able to take care of these things, then we're just going to eminent domain them or whatever it is.
Well, think about what kind of precedent that sets. If you don't take care of your, say, your vehicle, right? What's to stop them from doing the same thing to that? You've had. Don't forget that he had a. I forget the girl's name, but she was saying that property was going to look kind of different for those of a lighter complexion. If you recall that video.
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird. I mean, we already know that they're playing race politics. He played race politics all the way through it. It's a really weird thing where the devil needs to tell you what he's doing to you. And that's why I'm trying to understand how this guy could smile in the face of whom I would assume are smart enough New Yorkers to know that this guy is basically telling you exactly what he's going to do. But I find it detestable that he would come out in public and just basically say that he was going to start, taking property from people.
Absolutely. And the lady I was thinking of was Cia Weaver, who was actually the mayor's office to protect tenants.
Yeah. Well, oh yeah, this is I don't know. She's got a backstory on it, and I'll find out, but she got caught with some real like Communist Manifesto sort of interviews before she became the housing person. So I think everybody in his cabinet is pretty extreme. I mean, we're
look at
looking at
look at his wife, like what
yeah,
she posted.
absolutely the worst.
It's almost like
I
a
mean,
prerequisite.
well, yeah, strange bedfellows, whatever. Clearly she agrees. Clearly he's going to try to play the middle ground because she is so extreme, but you don't marry somebody that you don't agree with politically. And just weird. I'll be looking out from far away here but I think the world is looking at New York as a social experiment on whether this thing is actually going to work. And I mean, that kind of bleeds in with something that I didn't have on the list, but the big thing that's going on right now is the mayoral race in LA,
Mhm.
where they've got a choice of an independent and Spencer Pratt, who's talking practical. And I guess anytime somebody is practical, they're automatically, MAGA, whatever. They try to pin that on him. And he was like, no, this is local, but it's a choice between common sense and crazy socialism over there too. Nithya Raman, I believe, is way to the left of Karen Bass, and she's batshit crazy too, ALC type crazy. And I'm curious to see if common sense will prevail on the West Coast. I'm from Seattle
Yeah,
originally.
I would like to see common sense, but then I'm gonna get some Carrie Lake flashbacks. Things that had happened. We saw the momentum Carrie Lake had. We thought that she was gonna win that, and then things happened. Let's just say that. I don't know if you're allowed to talk. Like I'm used to TikTok rules, so
Look, if that is the case, then we should probably test the waters now because I haven't got any violations or any dings. But let's say what you're referring to, and I was paying a lot of attention to that Kerry Lake thing, that there was some shenanigans. And if we have to say alleged shenanigans in the process, in the voting process, and we all know, I mean, YouTube, whoever, the powers that be, have to face the fact that there's more and more information that comes out. Like I said, I was about to say I'm from Seattle, so I know about the shenanigans. They've been doing it so long that it isn't even noticeable. But I'm convinced in several elections where I was out there actually being somewhat of an activist for the right, that there were candidates that were hotter than fire that ended up not getting in suspiciously.
Yeah.
So part of the reason that I had to, migrate, that I had to flee, because I felt like, what's the point? Things aren't getting better. And when you get a state, like California, and a state like Washington, and states like Oregon, which are one-party states, as somebody on the right, you have zero control. You just basically, you're on a roller coaster ride that you can't get off of. So
Well, California already saw multiple reports of box areas where you drop envelopes catching fire mysteriously in California right now.
yeah. Yeah. I wondered, but I saw that yesterday, and then I wondered, well, they said we're investigating. What are you going to investigate? So
Well,
now,
notice what they said about that though. They're investigating whether or not the vote was changed, not who did it, but whether the votes were affected. They don't care about who did it.
right.
They just want,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I did hear that too. We're investigating the votes, what votes were affected. You're correct.
Not the person that did it.
Not the actual criminal, not the actual person who's committing a federal felony.
Absolutely.
By election interference is essentially what it is. Yeah, I mean, this is what I had said last time we talked about the left being the kings, or being the heavyweight champions of deception. They're great with changing words and changing terminology to make it seem like it's less.
Yeah, I mean, we forget with the whole Kerry Lake thing. What's her name was actually in where the votes were being counted, right? Oh, I forget her name, the governor there, but she was actually there when she wasn't supposed to be. We forget that like Gavin Newsom got recalled, right?
Yeah.
And how'd that turn out?
Yeah, and there was a lot of backlash against Gavin Newsom in California. It's weird that you bring that up, because it was almost a foregone conclusion that he was going to be recalled. And all of a sudden, magically, he rises like the golden boy. Was I surprised? I don't know if I was surprised, but it's the way that, the machine is designed in these kind of places for those kind of things to happen.
Correct.
So it's sort of built in. And I think that's why, until they get an outsider, until they get somebody who wants to actually look behind the curtain, look up under the dirty rug and see what's up under there, it's not going to change. So, I mean, I kind of have high hopes for what's going on in California. I don't know. If
anybody's gonna have a shot, it's Pratt. Like, if anybody, his campaign videos were scorched earth.
I mean, super effective.
Yes.
And super entertaining. I mean, you saw what I saw, and we're both smart individuals. I don't think I've seen a campaign that effective.
No, not even Trump's. Like, Trump's is good. Don't get me wrong, but I see, like, possibly well down the line, if he sticks to the path he's on, maybe he's a candidate for presidency. He'll throw his hat in there.
You look, I'm old enough to remember The Hills. I'm old enough to remember the reality show that he was on, and the character that he played. And he played this dumb, sort of California surfer dude. So, when I started to pay attention to this race, I'm like, this guy is super sharp. He is on time with everything that he's saying. He's got a response and a rebuttal to everything. And common sense kills, especially in a place like California. There's a cognitive dissonance. And I know that, New York has a little bit of that too, because, and where you're at, where we've seen so much of the fentanyl lean and the poop on the streets where we just walk by it and we're kind of whatever. It's a cognitive dissonance. And I think that, it's way worse on the West Coast. And California's got into that point where they, nobody's pointing out, hey, look, this park we used to play in, and now we've got a bunch of druggies in here shooting up, and all of the other things, the homelessness that never gets pointed out, that just gets worse and worse and worse.
And notice what they got caught, speaking of shooting up, sending a minivan to, pass a needle so as long as you write down your name for a certain vote.
Yeah. Shoot, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was happening in California. I believe there was a woman that got arrested for that too.
We'll give you a couple of. Okay, so this were individuals, not state-sponsored people that were just out there doing this?
So I gotta look up the girl's name, but she was arrested for setting up a booth for homeless people to catch a needle if you write a vote.
Okay, it makes sense. So basically, ballot harvesting with an incentive.
Mhm.
Because the reason that I ask is, and I haven't seen that particular news issue, but I know that, like in Washington, they assist drug users. In Washington, they do a methadone clinic. You get a methadone clinic for all of the heroin addicts.
Yeah, sorry, real quick. The 64-year-old California woman, Brenda Lee, was federally charged in May 2026 for paying homeless people on Skid Row to register to vote as long as, they get the pokey.
Yeah, it's shockingly brilliant if you're a cheater. Really. I'm like,
I mean, imagine the homeless vote over there. That's like the most homeless. Yeah. They're the number one in homeless. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, they facilitate the homelessness too. So, I mean, but you can't get, and it makes sense because you're not going to be getting these people to the booth. You're not going to be, they're not responsible enough. But if you can get them to sign on the dotted line on a ballot, then, and they're citizens, then I hate to say it, but they're legally able to vote. Now, whether the way that the vote is gathered is a whole different thing because, like I said, that's ballot harvesting. And once again, we're into very fishy waters there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I know that California, just like Washington, hands out syringes and hands out pipes and all of this stuff. It was part of one of Spencer Pratt's videos where he shows Bass. Here you go. Here's your crack pipe. It's brilliant. So we'll see what happens with that. What was your take on the nonsense that was going on in your part of town with the ICE, the continuing riots with ICE?
Are you referring to New Jersey area? And then
That's
the
correct,
Newark?
my friend.
Yeah. So
you guys are making big time news over there.
Oh yeah. So it's just another. There's actually a lady that's actually implicated that was in charge of this thing. What was her name? That she's the one that funded it and directed it. Hold on, give me 1 second. I was like literally talking about this too.
Yeah, well, I figured it was close to home, so I know that you, at least as a citizen of the city, that you would be affected by it, or you would know people that were affected by it.
No, not in Long Island. It was a little bit further out than compared to that was happening in New Jersey, so which was a little further. Our area is so when it comes to Long Island, our issue is MS-13 here in Long Island. You got Dearborn, Michigan has its issues when it comes to Somalis and their fraud. We have our issues when it comes to El Salvadorians in their machetes. You see?
Are you shitting me?
No, not at all.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I've never heard of this.
So in Long Island, it's a growing thing. The El Salvadorians are the number one immigration surge here in Long Island. If you look up since I think, what was it? I want to say like the early 2000s. And this is because there was a prior agreement. I got to remember the agreement, but there was an agreement that happened a long time ago that where it showed basically had El Salvadorans migrate to Long Island. It's one of those ongoing problems. So, and as you know, El Salvador, that's the main area of MS-13. So,
That's where they come from.
mhm.
Yeah. And I know that New York has traditionally done this, where they did it with the Cubans, right? When they had the Cuban crisis. It wasn't all Florida. That a lot of Cubans bled up to New York. There's a very large Cuban community out there, Hispanic community. And of course they came in as asylum seekers. Now, you never know. I'm going to assume that every MS-13 thug came up and claimed asylum too. So, that's where you're going to get the spin from Democrats that they're in this country legally because they were seeking asylum, whatever. But I didn't know that New York, being that far away from the border, has those kind of issues with illegals. But, gangs are everywhere. But
Well, just to give you an idea,
MS-13 is prevalent there.
Yeah, Nassau County did a crackdown in 2024, and there was like over 40, I believe, gang members from El Salvador, and they did a crackdown. There was this one kid who got hacked with a machete for being mistaken as an MS-13 member, and he fled on foot while being chased by these guys, and he lived, thankfully.
Yeah, that's just a shame. And it brings me back to the days when it was, red versus blue, and you're walking in the wrong neighborhood, and just because you happen to be wearing the wrong color, someone mistakes you for the wrong gang.
Oh, yeah.
Well, interesting. I mean, New York, Long Island, New Jersey, and of course, to me, it's all the same place because I'm not from there. Just like Seattle, there's 100 different cities in Seattle, but anytime anybody refers to Seattle, it's all of one big area.
Yeah.
So sorry for mistaking you for a New Jerseyan.
No. All good.
That was probably an insult, right?
No, not really. I'm like I said, I'm born and raised in Massachusetts. So to be fair, I hate both New Jersey and New York in general. But I'll say Long Island has good food, so I'll give it that.
Right. The reason that I actually was bringing up what was going on there in New Jersey is because I'm hearing that there's going to be another No Kings protest. And I was looking at a clip from Joe Rogan, and I forget who he was interviewing, where they were having a good laugh about the No Kings rallies and trying to discern exactly what it is that these people are trying to achieve. I've asked myself the same question. I asked myself when No Kings 1 was ineffective, when No Kings 2 was ineffective, and No Kings 3, it's a sputter and a spud. I don't get exactly what they're trying to achieve by this, other than we want to scream at the top of our lungs about our dissatisfaction with Trump and exercise our Trump derangement syndrome.
Well, it seems like they're just trying to stir the pot, to be honest with you. Like they're trying to get crowds agitated, to the point where they want, for instance, was it July 4th last year? There was a cop in, I want to say it was Texas, that was shot during an Antifa protest. They lured him out, and one of the guys shot him. And that court date is coming up with these Antifa. So what it is you got people that are running these No Kings events to amplify the crowd in order to get somebody to eventually bring firearms to cause more harm.
You think that's where, that's a good theory there. They're going to try to continue to push us and push us and push us so that their narrative of the right being the party of violence. Boy, like I said, like the spin is crazy, since all we can do is count on 10 fingers and 10 toes how many violent acts that they've committed just since Trump's been president. I never looked at it like that. I don't know if that'll ever be achievable. I know that there's clearly somebody who's funding this. To what end, I don't know, because at some point it becomes a moot point. It's starting to look ridiculous. You guys are protesting just for the active protesting. And it doesn't matter how many times we see you do the same thing or whatever numbers that you try to, achieve, it really doesn't change policy. As a matter of fact, I think it sort of pisses off the current administration and makes them want to double down. I mean,
Yeah,
have you seen that? I mean,
well, here's the thing: is I think it was like one of the first No Kings event that was, I believe, sponsored by the Walmart heiress. The Walmart heiress is the one who sponsored the No Kings first event. I don't know how many she's done since then, but I know there's other sponsors as well when it comes to No Kings.
There's got to be. You're not going to be able to get the kind of numbers that they're achieving there, which is always disturbing to me because I'm going, how many of these fucking people don't work? I mean, I got to get up and go to work tomorrow in the morning just like every other red-blooded American who's actually doing something. Where do these people come from? There's got to be some sort of a monetary source behind it.
Well, if you want to go to root cause, then we can go into the education system itself. So a big part is you got to remember these kids are young. So I actually was able to go to college after my military career, and I actually got to see what they're teaching. You have a history professor that was constantly on a daily basis saying it's basically, they would point out I'm going to put this. They would point out, the slavery, but they would only point out the slavery that we did in the past. They wouldn't point out like that where the slaves came from in the first place. They wouldn't announce like there was over 5,000 slave owners that were black in the United States. So they were constantly trying to make blacks the victims, whites the aggressors.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. And so you have a Marxist education system that's going on in the United States right now, and that's one of the root causes.
So what you're saying basically is it starts there, and that's where the indoctrination starts. So by the time they get to their young, adulthood, they've already been primed to act this way. So,
Absolutely.
So I mean, it's a good point. Essentially, this is just a mechanism of furthering the teachings. Well, you make a damn good point there. I mean, I didn't look at it that way, but if you really listen to some of the protesters that they interview, you definitely get a taste of the flavor of Marxism in it.
Well, here's the thing: is that Trump cracks down on the Department of Education, and that's good, when it comes to the waste. But when it comes to the ideologies that they implemented in the United States, they weren't the root cause. You have this lady who's been appointed as the American Federation Teachers Union since Obama, Randi Weingarten. She's in charge of the teachers union, where teaches what should be taught in schools, basically what the teachers are allowed to teach. So like such as climate change, gender theory, even I believe it was 2025, where she's saying that we should implement ideas from the World Economic Forum and incorporate it into in public schools. The same people that say you'll own nothing and be happy.
Yeah, I know a lot about the World Economic Forum. Thank God for Trump, because they were going full speed during the Biden administration to install a lot of their plan there. I don't know if they're still behind the scenes, but that is terrifying to think that they would be instituting that in the institution of education in America. I know that China has a little bit of their communist money in our education system as well. So there's a little taste of communism in there. I think that we both know that the ultimate goal is achieving a one world order.
Absolutely.
We got your Bill Gates and all that. I mean, we could really go down the rabbit hole with that one.
Well, Trump recognizes that, and he's ending the globalism through forcing China to the table. And they can't be trusted. But at the same time, it's good to do business instead of actually do an actual full-scale war.
Well, we're too connected to them financially. This
Correct.
is what I've always
And
said.
the
Every
same
time,
can be said with them as well. We're like that they need us as much as I wouldn't say Trump is trying to do away with the dependence of China because by the year 2100, they're projected to have only half their population, which means they will not be the dominant force economically. And if they fall, a lot of other countries that were dependent on them will.
yeah. And I mean, I don't know if the United States is doing much better on the replacement rate either. So we're
No,
not
no,
too
no, no.
far off, from a similar situation. But yeah, you're right. China depends on our dollars and we depend on their products. So there is a symbiotic relationship, even though we're diametrically opposed politically. But there's definitely some there. I think they're trying to pivot back and reinstitute some of the New World Order stuff. And that brings up, it actually opens up one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, and that's this government disclosure of UFOs and why now and how that affects religion. I know you probably know, like I know, about Project Bluebeam and the potential staged alien invasion.
Well, I just
Have you?
I find it weird that we have a Steven Spielberg movie coming out called Disclosure Day, coming around the same time frame of these UFO reportings. Like, what does he know?
Well, I mean, I think that a lot of his movies are based upon information that he got from, deep state operatives to begin with. I mean, we could go back and do a review, but yeah, I mean, the government has already said that they're going to be unleashing these UFO files, and I've seen a few sprinkled in. It's really not new information. For most people, it's not shocking. I mean, anybody who follows conspiracy theories or anybody who, like myself, even it's not even a political thing. I mean,
Oh
Ancient
no.
Aliens has been on since shit when my son was born. So it's not like they haven't been trying to trickle this in. It's the narrative. It's the narrative that they're trying to push now that is
Well,
bothering me.
well, yeah. You mentioned like the narrative, and we forgot how quietly has like the Hanta thing have kind of been like swept under the rug, right? Hanta, that was talked about in conjunction with these UFOs. And I remember seeing a X-Files movie talk about the hantavirus and the release of UFOs. It was a legit episode or a movie special.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have the same clip that you had that you posted when we both. I really appreciate your content and your smarts, which is why I love to have you on here because we can bounce off of each other. That hunt, and I'm glad you brought up the hantavirus thing as it pertains to this particular subject because I think the push against the hantavirus narrative was the reason that they had to
Back
come
away
off.
from it. Yeah,
They had to back away from it. Now, I used to be a listener of Alex Jones. Okay.
So was I. I was a big Infowars.
I lost it when he went on that, we need to do the 25th Amendment, whatever the thing is, where, the president, then I was like, okay, now you're on some Candace Owens shit.
Candace
But
Owens, that's a different one.
he was
She's the
definitely on
worst.
the front line.
Candace Owens is the worst of them.
I mean, and she has a lot of crazy, trust me. I know you haven't started your Twitter journey yet or your X journey yet, but I thought it was imaginary and I thought it was bots and whatnot. But if you try to criticize, and because there's a lot of people on the right, I guess, so-called right, I guess they're wanting to separate themselves from MAGA now, America first, now MAGA, whatever. And so there's some sort of a civil war within the right. But I always break it down to the simple, who the fuck you going to vote for? You going to vote for the Democrats or you going to vote for the Republicans? Well, shut the fuck up, okay? Because it doesn't matter how you feel about how somebody, oh, Trump did this and he invaded that. Who are you going to vote for next time around? Because Trump isn't going to be there. So I don't want to hear that shit. But
Well, go ahead.
The hantavirus thing, I think there was a motive behind that. And I think the motive behind that is that, and you know this because you've commented on it, and that they need the Democrats need something to sink their teeth into. They need a way to cheat. I'm in Indiana. Remember, and I'll just let me go on a little aside here real quick. I know that everybody knows how before these primaries started, we're trying to get the Save America Act passed. We're trying to do all of these things, and we're still seeing this obstructionist, deep state sort of action going on from our side. We're in power in both the House and the Senate. We should be steamrolling every single thing that comes through the House and the Senate. There should not even be a question about it. This guy fucking Thune, I could go on a 10-minute rant on him, but I think everybody already knows what's going on.
It's not just him. It's not just him.
Yeah. And the problem is now after, and we saw what happened with Massey. First, it happened in Indiana. So everybody that was a Trump obstructionist got primary. Bye-bye. These are career officials,
Massey
career
was not
politicians.
too smart. Massey was not too smart. He campaigned off of you shouldn't have foreign influence, while at the same time he was getting backed by. He got backed by a Muslim donor who gave him $35,000, and in the same breath, that same donor gives Ilhan Omar $21,000.
I have no forgiveness, no love for the hate Israel side of the party. Unfollow me, whatever. If you watch this show, now all of a sudden you don't like me. I do not understand the Israel hate. I don't get it. I'm still trying to understand what this whole pushback.
It's by design. So here's the thing: is you notice that it's only one side. So in 2020, China, Russia, and Iran conducts military drills. 2024 comes around. They conduct more military drills than any previous year. And in December 2025, Iran starts moving a bunch of arsenal around for something. Notice you don't see on that side why doesn't China stand by themselves? Why doesn't Iran stand by themselves? Why doesn't Russia stand by themselves? It's always the United States and Israel for a reason. It's because they want to isolate us to make it easier to pick apart, right? That's the game. That's the game. Either they know that's the game or they don't understand the game risk to begin with.
But I don't know how they were able to mind fuck these people. I mean, people on our side. We're mostly Christian. I'm a, and I know that you are too. Call me a card-carrying Christian, okay? I was raised that way. It is just natural to me. It is natural to me that Israel is the ally. I equated this to a bar fight, okay? And you've been in these before too. Your buddy's drunk. He's picking a fight with somebody, and you know he's wrong. Whatever. It's too late now, because now fists are flying. What are you gonna do? You don't stick up for your homie? This is what I'm talking about. So, okay, you can have legitimate gripes on how Israel does what they do. Let's remember they're surrounded by a bunch of fucking goat fucking cave dwellers that are screaming death to America and death to Big Babylon, Little Babylon.
Death to Israel, death to America. Yep.
So if that is the case, then I'm always wondering to myself, why is it so hard for us as Americans, or us even on the right, to pick a team? Pick a team. If you're going to tell me that you're going to support the people who did what they did on October 7th to all of those innocent people, and that's who you want to follow, there's something wrong with you.
No, absolutely. Like, I just saw, and this is what shocks me. Well, I can't say I'm shocked anymore. I saw a preacher, some female minister, say that Jesus would want abortions. Jesus is okay with abortions. I saw this where this abomination of a church had nothing but pride rainbow things on it. So it's beware the false prophets. They're trying to they know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to destroy Judeo-Christian values here in the United States. That's the end goal, is to destroy the nuclear family and destroy Judeo-Christian values here in the United States. That's the end goal.
See, that boy, and that bleeds into exactly. See, we're on the same wavelength. I think they're trying to degrade the faith in Christ and Jesus. Why is there such a push? I mean, I know that you feel it. I'll ask you. I'll ask you as a question.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because for the longest time, so I grew up. I think I talked about this, like, and the first one we said. I grew up as a Catholic. I had a falling out with God. I said a bunch of bad things, but ironically, this push that they've been doing is actually been pushing me to ask, like, why, ask those same questions. Why is it specifically this one religion that you guys are against? Why is it?
Yes.
Like, if you have atheists and you have Muslims pretty much going after Christianity,
Yes.
I see it on TikTok all the time. Like God doesn't exist. God doesn't exist. Like I see them saying this. I see them criticizing Trump for a post he did it in the same breath. They'll say that God doesn't exist in the first place. Right?
Yeah, it's crazy. I know that you feel like I feel that they've been going really hard. I'm gonna say something weird here, and it won't be too weird. But what is the name? What is the word? If you're thinking on a
I'm sorry. What? Sorry. 1 second. There's somebody. 1 second. Okay, good to go.
If you're thinking on like a paranormal, look, what is the word? What is the one thing that you do when you call out to Jesus? Jesus, the name, the Christianity is based upon the belief in Christ, that Christ died on the cross, that he rose on the third day, and that through that, his sacrifice allows us forgiveness as a fallen race, as fallen humanity, to be one with God. Okay. It is the only true religion in my mind. Where do ghosts run? Where do aliens run? When they talk about the Hat Man, or when they talk about the old hag, when you're having night, when you call upon Jesus' name, it is all powerful. Jesus is the word, the way, and the life. And for anybody that is doing evil, they have to reject the word Jesus. I don't know if you've ever been around someone, and I've been around, I lived in a liberal. You can see people recoil.
Oh, absolutely.
At the name of Jesus.
You see it in Hollywood all the time.
That's the truth. So what I'm saying is that the doubling down of them trying to, and this is where this kind of bleeds into this whole UFO thing. So the whole point of what Project Bluebeam is, and people can look that up, there's plenty of YouTube videos, is essentially to get us to turn away from our faith, to turn away from Jesus, to doubt. Now, I understand fully where you had. I actually had a little personal thing about me. I had a young son who passed away. I had 3 sons. One of them died when he was young. And at that point, I had that epiphany where I had to question God's plan. When you're in an emotional state, and that's what you believe, and that's what you know, then you have to ask why. Why would you may feel a way about that. Most people come back around. People that are instilled in faith understand that the bad things lead to other things. It's all a learning lesson.
Life is dealing with suffering and what you do afterwards and how you deal with it.
It's like forging steel. There's a scripture, and I'm not the most first in the scriptures. I remember them, I learned them, but I can't recite them. The turmoil that you go through, the trials and tribulations, are just to forge you like the strongest of steel. And I believe that now, coming from where I came from and doing what I'm doing. But this whole thing, and I just kind of want to put out to the viewers that are looking now that don't buy into it. I think that they're going to try this whole UFO thing, and they're going to try this whole one world religion. Jesus is not. So I really want people to understand that it's a deception. We all know, and I know that my life that I live around is that I know that the devil is a liar. So I'm always looking out for deception.
Absolutely.
It's what keeps me safe.
And this is like as a Christian, who do we consider to be the best of all deceivers is the devil, right? And in Islam, what does Allah claim to be?
Yeah.
The greatest of all deceivers.
Exactly. It's the polar opposite, which is why I can never understand that anybody who holds any Christian values would ever side with Allah, with Muslims. I believe fully that Islam is the religion of the devil.
No, absolutely.
Now I'm saying that, God dang it, that might be the thing that gets me cut off on fucking YouTube. But it's the truth. There is nothing good. Everything that Islam touches, it destroys. Am I going too far here?
No, here's the thing: is it's an ideology that and it should be treated as such. The same way here in the United States, we were like we say we were open to all religions, but if a religion says they will openly seek to destroy you, ever since like the over the 45 countries they conquered historically, if you treat it as an ideology instead, that it diminishes. It's kind of like the same way we talk about like the KKK. They're an ideology, and if you treat them the same way, they're allowed. Don't get me wrong. You got like some KKK members still here and there. The SPLC was donating obviously to those guys or whatever. But if you treat it as an ideology, then it weakens.
Yeah, don't give it any light. Essentially, is what you're saying. I mean, once again, I'm feeling like there is something in the air, and I'm starting to feel like there's a wave of deception. And there's people gullible enough. I really doubled down on paying attention to what was really going on during COVID. A lot of people fell for that. A lot of people I know and love fell for that deception. And I knew that it was a deception right away. And I went, that there's people that I felt that I respected their intelligence, that I respected their morals, that could be deceived so easily. Well, so here's how it creeps in. You know what I mean? Now we're going to have the mark of the beast, and we're going to get people that are going to be willingly doing this.
Now, here's the question. Do you have people that are trying to manipulate for the end times to happen? It seems like on one front, you got people trying to manipulate it to go that way.
There's another angle to it, knowing you're not wrong about that. And quite frankly, they may be thinking that they're doing good work by doing that. They're ushering in the coming of the second coming. But in reality, all they're really doing is committing evil acts. Who knows? That might be a spin on what some people think, is going on with Israel. I think I heard a spin on it that Israel's doing all of this to usher it in. However, that's just more theories and conspiracy theories. But yeah, I mean, we can go real long on the religious aspects of the thing, but it's all philosophical. Just watch out for the deception, because I feel like there's going to be some sort of a big deception, and I'm not going to be fooled like I wasn't like people were fooled with COVID, or where they tried to get people to buy into the hantavirus or the monkeypox, or any other virus that pops up. If you know, and if you stay steadfast within your beliefs, then you're not going to be taken advantage of. And I think that might be why, there's only a certain amount of people that'll get raptured, because it's probably the people that don't buy into the bullshit.
Well, here's the thing: is we talk about the whole Iran and this nukes, right? In Islam, do you understand what the connection between Jesus and the Mahdi? So they needed a significant event to occur in order for this guy named the Mahdi to appear, and that's basically when the Antichrist will come.
Needs a catalyst.
Yes, correct.
Right. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that, but I'm going to look it up. I know they talked a lot about the what do you know, the red calf and all of this stuff. So there's a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff, a bunch of puzzle pieces that need to come together in order for, you know, the end times to come. There's people that are clearly they're actively going about doing that. They're having, you know, calves raised here in America, and they're sacrificing them and all that. So that's beyond my my knowledge range. But like I said, I mean, it's clear that something's in the air. I mean, I feel it, and a lot of people do, and I
Yeah.
want us to
So
be paying attention for when it does occur.
yeah. So their and the Islam's end times is basically our end times is basically their what they want. So they want the global chaos where the Mahdi appears, and in that when that happens, you know, Jesus under Jesus will be set to return, and you have then the Dajjal, which is the Antichrist. He's killed, and Islam will insert its dominance and do basically it's going to be a 7-year rule, right? That's what they want. There's a little bit more to it. I'm not saying giving it justice the way it's being put out, but yeah.
No, you need to make no excuses there because, like I said, I know that we both had know the base material, but when you start to get into the, you know, the finer points and the finer details, it's a little bit much. And we didn't, of course, we're doing this on the fly. We didn't do our research there, but I wonder if, you know, that's part of what's going on in Paris. I know that I saw that, you know, that you had posted a video. I looked at it too. They have this. I mean, one of the most terrifying things you can see is a icon like the Eiffel Tower on fire.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
know that it wasn't actually on fire, but we see that Paris has been invaded essentially by military aged third world men.
And that's how it
You
trickles.
know,
It's like a leak. You know, it trickles in until you find out there's way too much water.
yeah. Well, I mean, and water finds the path of least resistance. I know that's one thing. The two things I don't do is try to be an electrician or a plumber. Because if you don't do it right, you're gonna get leaks or
Yeah.
you're gonna get electrocuted. You can't play around with it. You have to do it right.
Uh,
I'm glad you chimed in. Appreciate you coming
yeah.
on,
No,
Don.
good.
I enjoy
It's good
talking to
seeing you
you.
again.
Okay.
Hope you're well. You and your family are well. And God bless, brother.
Absolutely. Bless you too, man. We'll talk to you soon.